I was reflecting on the incredible success of this venture that Asfar has led for so many years, and I was thinking about why it's so deeply connected to the man sitting to my left, the Honorable General Zubair Mahmood Hayat, former Chief of our Joint Staff, former Chief of General Staff, and I was trying to figure out what the significance is. And the significance is that many, many years ago, when before the first Leaders in Islamabad Summit, we weren't able to do events like this. And the reason we weren't able to do events like this is because there was a full-scale war on the people of Pakistan where bombs were exploding in our markets, our schools, our madrasas, our mosques, our churches, our gurdwaras, right across the country. And one of the people that brought together the entire way that the military and security establishment in Pakistan thinks about national security, the convergence between technology, the use of technology by Pakistan's enemies, and the way in which Pakistan needs to defend itself, was in fact General Zubair. And so I just want to acknowledge that we're able to do events like this in Islamabad, in Multan, in Karachi, in Faisalabad, in Lahore, in Peshawar today, even though that war still continues in some way, for one reason, and that is the sacrifices of our soldiers and our policemen and our intelligence officers and our airmen and our seamen. And those sacrifices are enabled through the strategic thinking of generals and philosophers and warriors like General Zubair. So I just wanted to ask this august audience to acknowledge this incredible sacrifice and contribution to our country by applauding and recognizing that contribution. Of course, I see Air Chief Marshal Suhail Aman here, and I know that there's many other people from the armed forces. I want to use that as a pivot, General Saab, and just dive right into the conversation. We have, for a long time, including myself, we've been interested in this divide between civilian and military. I had originally planned a different question, but as you know, I never stick to the script. So I wanted to maybe begin the conversation by asking you, what role is there for ordinary civilians who are not part of the military, not part of the government, in continuing to secure and defend any country, but in particular this country?
Thank you very much, Musharraf. I think you've been more than generous in introducing me. I think it's basically a collective national effort that Pakistan has put in, and Pakistan has succeeded in many ways, especially with respect to what you were saying, while challenges still remain and we still need to gather. To me, the question that you ask about the civil military is basically an artificial question. And I've get this question posed to me a number of times by a number of people. I always tell them we are one nation. I am a military officer. My elder brother is a doctor, PhD in civil engineering. So how could it be that he is a different person and I am a different person? We belong to the same father, we came up in the same family. The bigger debate here is that if any nation has to go forward, then it has to believe in two things. It has to believe in institutions and it has to believe in processes. And you have to minus personalities. And once you believe in institutions, then this is a collective decision-making processes. This is not one man, there's no one Badshah sits there who will be able to control. And if you have the right processes, then you will get the right inputs. And if you get these two things right, the whole question of civil military will evaporate. That's it.
I think one of the challenges, General Saab, is that you're right, it's an artificial question. Certainly for me, I don't think the military gets to do what it needs to do without civilians. I think these things are intertwined. But I guess where we see all around the world well-established institutions, well-established processes, we are still seeing those countries fall to the allure and the attraction of not institutions, but the other thing. I want to deliberately not take any names, whether at home or abroad, but there is this growing appeal of people wanting to connect, deeply with the people that are in charge. And absent that connection, the people that are in charge really struggle to run things. And so whether it's the changes in Europe over the last 5 or 10 years, or the big changes in the United States of America, frankly, a big change over the last 15 years in our neighborhood, all around our neighborhood, except for Iran, how do we then think about securing the homeland, but more importantly, progressing when the trends across the world are anti-institution, they're pro-person, and they're pro-populism, if you will?
I think we come now to the core subject. You see, what's happening all around is taking you to the direction of the unknown. And that's why today's topic of navigating the unknown. Why is it the unknown? You gave certain factors. I think we are at a tipping point in humanity. There has never been a more decisive tipping point in humanity. Why I say that is because the Homo sapiens as an intelligent species have never been challenged. For the first time, you are challenging the intelligence of Homo sapiens. And that is creating an environment where you are leading into a new world, whereas the old world you had created and lived with in an evolutionary process for 6,000 years. All the recorded history. And here you come to a point where everything that you knew stood for. You stood for multilateralism. It's dead. You stood for international institutions. They are no longer functioning. You stood for rule of law. I mean, you can see the global trend in the rule of law. It doesn't exist. So every pillar of human society has collapsed. And once you have a situation where this is no longer a transition, it is a sudden push. And in this sudden push, you have to now come up and understand the new world. And we will discuss more about it because we will talk about forging the future. But before you forge the future, you have to close the past.
I think, and in order to close the past, we also have to understand where we are. You very rightly explained how there's this great flux. And this reminds me of the first time I met you and the first time I heard you speak at the Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore, where when I got on the plane to go there, I was feeling a little bit depressed, wondering whether Pakistan was going to be able to put up a good show, because oftentimes at these conferences, another country, I won't name the country, but a country in the neighborhood goes and it really, that was the era when it really began flexing its muscles. And of course, when I heard you speak, and you spoke in many ways in the same vein as you are today about the changes that are taking place. I want to just not challenge you, because I dare not, but I do want you to maybe explain a bit further. In all these changes, it seems like countries that have strength, and in particular economic strength, essentially they are the ones that are running roughshod over all these established truths and institutions and rules of the game. How should a weaker country, economically at least, feel about that? I don't want to use the word fear, but there is, I think, legitimate anxiety that people in smaller countries would have when they see all these bigger countries going ahead and doing whatever they want. Whether it's, I'll name a few countries, right? Whether it's Russia with respect to Ukraine, whether it's the United States with respect to the whole world, whether it's India with respect to its continued occupation of Kashmir, and of course, whether it's Israel, and its continued genocide of Palestinians in Gaza. So I think the fear that I have is that the lesson people are going to take from this is, let's also get strong so we can also repeat this behavior. Is that a fear that is legitimate?
I think it is how you look at the world which is emerging. If you first of all define for yourself that the old world does not exist, therefore all these fears belong to the old world. The new world, the old world was defined by certain sets of rules of the nation states, 1648, Treaty of Westphalia, and move forward. And then it got developed in the last 1 century into a military-industrial complex, which was then driving these national states. I think we are moving beyond. That state control of human evolution or societal evolution or cultural evolution no longer exists. Now you are getting into a world where you have a techno-industrial revolution or a techno-industrial world order. And we have to understand what is the difference between a military-industrial world order and a techno-industrial world order. In a military-industrial world order, you had basically the state, which was basically a principal stakeholder, and at least was laying parameters for that. That has shifted. Now you have these technical experts like XYZ, don't want to name, and they are driving. They are not participating in the government. They are driving the government. And they are driving the industry. And therefore, this entire construct, the way it was fundamentally architectured, that has collapsed. And they are now creating new worlds of which we sit in awe. And therefore, if this is the new world order, a techno-industrial new order, then I think our opportunities arise from them. And in that, Musharraf, I think the key question that I like to leave behind is, it's not the numbers that is going to matter. It's not the size of the economy. It's not the size of the country. I'll quote you a general who looks after the United States Aerospace Command. He says that a small country, and he gives the example of New Zealand, and New Zealand is a country of about 6 to 7 million people. He said a small country like New Zealand will have the power, if it so desires, to alter the balance of power in the world. Now, if a small country can do it, why? Because there will be few people required who will be able to lead this change. Because you don't require CEOs. You don't require traditional leaders. You require meta leaders. Meta leaders who will be able to, connect the disciplinary aspects of the spectrum. And they'll be able to operate in ambiguity, in uncertainty, in paradox.
I think that leads to again, an anxiety that, as I always do with you, I bring you problems that I'm facing, and I try to, ask you to help me think about them. And now we have an opportunity to do it with so many friends. I look at Elon Musk and his behavior over the last year and a half. It's been different. Once upon a time, I was so excited. I read Ashley Vance's biography of Elon Musk. I was so impressed with him. I bought 20 copies and I started distributing them to friends and people that were interested in reading. And then I've watched over the last year him adopting at least a quasi-racist tone. He has deliberately targeted Pakistanis living in the UK. It's a very deliberate thing that he's been doing. He's certainly been part of some worrying things that he's enacting in the United States in terms of narratives about race and getting along. He has supported the worst people, at least from this distance, in South Africa, and prompted the US government to do the same. But at the same time, if you ask me, do I want Starlink? Hell yes, I want a connection today. If you ask me, would I like to drive a Tesla? I will ask Asfar to buy me one day. But yes, I definitely want a Tesla. If you ask me, what do I want most in terms of a vision for this country? I'd like 4 or 5 launching sites in Pakistan. One in Balochistan, one in Sindh, one in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, one in the Punjab for SpaceX exploration missions. So I'm worried about what this techno-industrialist leader, I think the kind that you're describing, I'm worried about his ideas, I'm worried about his ideology, I'm worried about whether he dislikes me because of the color of my skin or the direction I pray in, but I'm excited about the things that he's brought to the world and the innovation that he's created. How do we reconcile this, like I guess maybe the fear and the anxiety of not having that strength on the one hand, and the excitement of wanting to engage with it and learn from it and benefit from it. For a country like Pakistan, I think that's a major dilemma that we face, not just at the personal level, but I think maybe also at the collective level.
That's a good question. You see, I currently find two examples in front of me. One is an individual driven, like you said, Elon Musk. But name me a compatible person of Elon Musk in China. You want to drive Tesla. I can tell you BYD will beat Tesla maybe 10 times over. But you don't have an Elon Musk to do that Tesla in China. And therefore, when I talk about this techno-industrial world, it's not to me driven by individuals per se. It is driven by a technological evolution that has taken place, where either some individuals or a system in itself will combine together to create effects. And I think there, Pakistan has a leverage. And I want to make that point here. You see, I've always believed Pakistan has been a middle power. It is a middle power. Pakistan has been a country of significance. It is a country of significance. It's the fourth largest English-speaking country in the world. And all that AI will require is a command. And if you can give a command in any language, especially in English, it will be able to function better. Secondly, it is one of the most intelligent nations. The best part of artificial intelligence is you have to ask the best question. And believe me, you have to go to Raja Bazaar to find out how good a question Pakistanis can ask. They are masters at it. So in this new techno world, you require a very small set of people, meta leaders, who will be able to lead. So if India, let's say, and we made that point sometime a year ago, 25 years ago, 35 years ago, Manmohan Singh made that point, went into an IT domain. We lost that track. But we should not lose the AI track now. The AI track is going to supersede this IT track because it will not be dependent upon human coding. Things will become automatically coded. And you have that capability here, provided you do three things. Provided you create AI labs. That's very important. And I think if they had created IT universities, you need to create AI labs. For that, you will need to create more of data centers. Pakistan today only possesses 36 data centers. India possesses more than 150 data centers. China possesses more than 500 data centers. The United States possesses more than 5,000 data centers. So if you need an architecture, you will require its base. You require that. Then you require within your processes, whether it is judicial process, whether it is governance process, whether it is corporate process, strategic foresight units. I mean, you can't do business as usual. This is not going to be hierarchical. It is not going to be systematic. It's not going to be steel and powder. It's not going to be traditional leadership. You require strategic foresight units that will be built in. And for that, you will require your own data sovereignty. And that is a subject that I've been now talking about, because data has reached, is the biggest strategic asset that you have. And if you have to forge forward, who controls the data? And if you control the data, then how much data do you control? I mean, the world is now reaching a level, Musharraf, where organic data is basically evaporating. It is reaching a saturation point. You are now going into a realm where synthetic data is being produced. Because if there is chemistry had X amount of elements. But artificial intelligence will tell you you can go beyond those elements. And that for that you will require synthetic data. So when we now talk about this new techno-industrial world, you will require new data, you will require new ways to explore that data. And I think we can do wonders there.
I think this is genuinely, I hope the audience also appreciates how insightful this is, but I think it's also very ambitious. I mean, my immediate sort of reaction is when I think, okay, so, we need to do three things. We need AI labs, we need data centers, and we need data sovereignty that can, then utilizing that sovereignty, we have strategic foresight sort of generation capacity. In order to do any of these, General Sahab, it feels like we may be lacking the adequate quantum of human capital that we need. And here I'm going back to my basics, as you know, on basic education, literacy, school enrollment, maternal and neonatal health, nutrition. Those are kind of some of the fundamentals. And for that, I think maybe the existing quantum of human capital might not be adequate to be able to fulfill the needs of what Pakistan must do in order to kind of leapfrog and remain a competitive and credible and I think challenging middle power for the region and for the world. Is that too pessimistic? Am I looking at the wrong data here? Because clearly there are big problems in education, as we all know. But maybe I'm not thinking about this in the right way.
You see, the challenge that you have spoken about is cognitive in nature, and it is how you train your manpower in mental growth and mental resilience. When you have this power where you don't have tools but you have agents, this entire education system that you possess today, which is Oxford-based, which is Cambridge-based, which is basically work-oriented, is basically legacy. You don't need to work to understand. You just give a click or give a command and everything that you want to know ever in your life is there on the press of a button. And therefore, I'll give you an example, Musharraf. We had a problem, and Air Chief Marshal is sitting here, we had a problem with F-16s. And we got to go back to the Americans and ask for their help. The amount of money that they were asking, for the amount of time that they were asking, it was phenomenal. When we gave the same problem to our own people, it costed 1% of what it would have costed to others. And these guys, they had not gone through any sophisticated trainings in some Harvard and some Cambridge and some West. They were basically trained, young people. And it's my life understanding that when you give a challenge to our guys, give him responsibility, give him authority, and give him some space, they will be able to deliver. And in the future world, you see, when I talked about this old world, which was military industrial complex having finished, and industrial, this techno-industrial taking place, this techno-industrial will also not last very longer. Its life shelf is going to be anything between 25 years plus. That's it. Then you are going to go into an intelligence age, a fully intelligence age. So we are in a transition. Elon Musk is a transitional phenomena. He is not the permanent phenomena. Such individuals will fade away because individuals will fade away. And these systems that will come into play, which you have to get interfaced with, they will amplify you. They will actually exemplify your thought processes. And you will have not one agents, but you will have many agents simultaneously working for you. And there, I believe, we have the ability to work.
General Sahab, I have to say I'm blown away because the title of the conference is Navigating the Unknown. And I think, at least for me, I've been listening. I usually don't listen as carefully as I've listened to you. And part of the reason that I'm struck by it is it leaves a lot for us to think about. It certainly triggers and forces one to reimagine how they think about the world. So I must thank you. But since we still live in the age of the individual for now, I'm glad that we have individuals like you to help us navigate the unknown and to forge, a future that we're more confident in. I'd like to request the audience to give a warm round of applause of thanks to General Zubair, and with that, wrap up this fascinating and fantastic conversation. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you very much, Mr.